Characteristics of Mysticism. Number 5. As a corollary of these 4 rules, it is perhaps well to reiterate the statement already made that true mysticism is never self-seeking. Well, unless you're a perfected being, you're usually self-seeking. It is not, as many think, the pursuit of supernatural joys, the satisfaction of a high ambition. The mystic does not enter on his quest because he desires the happiness of the beatific vision, the ecstasy of union with the absolute, or any other personal reward. The noblest of all passions, the passion for perfection for love's sake, wow, far outweighs the desire for transcendental satisfaction. O love, says St. Catherine of Genoa, I do not wish to follow thee for sake of these delights, but solely for the motive of true love. Those who do not otherwise are only, in the plain words of St. John the Cross, spiritual gluttons. If I just meditate for the bliss, does that make me a glutton? Or do I have to have a deeper meaning? Or in the milder metaphor here adopted, magicians of the more minded sort, more high-minded sort. The true mystic claims no promises or makes no demands. He goes because he must, as Galahad went towards the Grail, knowing that for those who can live it, this alone is life. He never rests in that search for God, which he holds to be the fulfillment of his highest duty, yet he seeks without any certainty of success. He holds with Saint Bernard that he alone is God, who can never be sought in vain, not even when he cannot be found. With Metchild of Magdeburg, he hears the absolute saying in his soul, quote, O soul, before the world was, I longed for thee, and I still long for thee, and thou for me. Therefore, when our 2 desires unite, love shall be fulfilled. Goodness. Like this type, the devout lover of romance, then the mystic serves without hope of reward. But one of the many paradoxes of the spiritual life, he obtains satisfaction because he does not seek it. Completes his personality because he gives it up. Attainment, says Dionysius Areopagite, in words which are writ large on the annals of Christendom. Ecstasy comes only by means of the sincere, spontaneous, and entire surrender of yourself and all things. Only with the annihilation of selfhood comes the fulfillment of love, where the mystic asks the cause of his often extraordinary behavior, his austere and steadfast quest. It is unlikely that his reply would contain any reference to sublime illumination or unspeakable delights. But don't they speak of them? It is more probable that he would answer in some such words as those of Jacob Boehme, I am not come to this meaning or to this work and knowledge through my own reason or through my own will and purpose. Neither have I sought this knowledge, nor so much as to know anything concerning it. I sought only for the heart of God, therein to hide myself. Whether we live or whether we die, says St. Paul, We are the Lord's. The mystic is a realist to whom these words convey not a dogma but an invitation. An invitation to the soul to attain the fullness of life for which he was made, to lose herself in that which can be neither seen nor touched, giving herself entirely to this sovereign object without belonging either to herself or to others, united to the unknown by the most noble part of herself, and because of her renouncement of knowledge, finally drawing from this absolute ignorance and knowledge, which the understanding knows not how to attain. The mysticism then is seen as the one way out for the awakened spirit of man, healing that being incompleteness, which is the origin of our divine unrest. I am sure, says Eckhart, that if a soul knew the very least of all that being means, it would never turn away from it. Mystics have never stayed away. To do so would have seemed to them a self-destructive act. Here in this world of illusion, they say we have no continuing city. This state meant to you a proposition is to us the central fact of life. Therefore, it is necessary to hasten our departure from hence, and detach ourselves in so far as we may from the body to which we are fettered, in order that with the whole of ourselves we may fold ourselves about divinity and have no part void of contact with him. To sum up, mysticism is seen to be a highly specialized form of that search for reality, for heightened and completed life, which we have found to be a constant characteristic of human consciousness. It is largely prosecuted by that spiritual spark, that transcendental faculty which through the life of our life remains below the threshold of in ordinary man. Emerging from its hiddenness in the mystic, it gradually becomes the dominant factor in his life, subduing to its service and enhancing by its saving contact with reality those vital powers of love and will which we attribute to the heart, rather than those of mere reason and perception which we attribute to the head. Under the spur of this love and will, the whole personality rises in the acts of contemplation and ecstasy to a level of consciousness at which it becomes aware of a new field of perception. By this awareness, by this loving sight, it is stimulated to a new life in accordance with the reality which it has beheld. So strange and exalted is this life that it neither fails to provoke either the anger or the admiration of other men. Quote, if the great Christian mystic, says Leba, could by some miracle be brought together in the same place, each in his habitual environment there, to live according to his manner, the world would soon perceive that they constitute one of the most amazing and profound variations of which the human race has yet been witness. A discussion of mysticism regarded as a form of human life will therefore include two branches. First, the life process of the mystic, the remaking of his personality, the method by which his peculiar consciousness of the absolute is attained, and the faculties which have been evolved to meet the requirements of the phenomenal are enacted and able to do work on the transcendental plane. This is the mystic way, in which the self passes through the states or stages of development which were codified by the Neoplatonists and after them by the medieval mystics as purgation, illumination, and ecstasy. Secondly, the content of the mystical field of perception, the revelation under which the contemplative becomes aware of the absolute. This will include a consideration of the so-called doctrines of mysticism, the attempts of the articulate mystic to sketch for us the world into which he has looked in language which is only adequate to the world in which many promising expositions of the mystics have been wrecked. It will be our business to strip off as far as may the symbolic wrapping and attempt a synthesis of these doctrines to resolve the apparent contradictions of objective and subjective revelations of the ways of negation and affirmation, emanation and eminence, surrender and deification, the divine dark and the inward light. And finally, to exhibits, if we can, the essential unity of that experience in which the human soul enters consciously into the presence of God. End of the chapter 4 of Characteristics of Mysticism. Page 47. There, did you hear it again? Next chapter is Mysticism and Theology. We read from Mysticism and Evelyn Underhill. Did that cover what you wanted to hear? Does it relate to your caverns in the cave? Caverns in the caves in the heart. Dance of the shadows. Does it cover?
That's the only way I can understand it.
Why wouldn't you understand it as the mystical dance?
That was a mystical dance.
The mystical caves in the shadows, and caves in the heart, dances in the shadows.
Dance of the shadow.
Dance of the shadows.
God, it's been around for a while. So long, how can you not even capture it?
But why don't we read it then?